guys, so I'm at the tail end of this project now. I've mostly completed everything on this painting. I've let it dry for a few days now, and because I'm using those Alkyd oil paints, they dry very quickly. And so now it's very dry to the touch. What I want to do is add a final glaze to this painting. And I really want to strive to approximate the colors from the photograph as best I can into the painting. I want to improve on some of my highlights, and I also want to improve on some of my shadows as well. So I've pre-mixed my palette. So let's go jump into this real quickly, and we'll add this final glaze. And I've got my supplies here, and I'm going to go here. What I want to start and do first is I'm going to go into my liquid. So I'll kind of show you, I've kind of got this, the colors I'm going to be using, kind of go into my liquid here. I've mixed kind of this really light kind of flesh tone by using titanium white, my red, and my phthalo red, phthalo yellow, and just a little bit of my cerulean blue. So I'm going to go in here, and I've got it nice and transparent, adding that extra bit of liquid original. And I'm going to come through here, and I want to kind of just bring in a little bit lighter tones into some of these darker regions here. Now again, it's very transparent, so it's going to allow that underpainting to show through, but it is starting to lighten up just a little bit, because I thought, as I've been looking at my picture, I kind of thought this area right here was just a little bit too much on the dark side. So that'll allow that area just to kind of go a few shades lighter, but still allow my original, got to the hairline there, still allow my original colors that are already painted in to still maintain their integrity. And you may not even be able to see this, it's very subtle. It's very, very subtle, but it is starting to lighten that up. And I thought even right here under the eye, it was just a little bit too dark. So I wanted to bring that up just a hair more light. And this is really why I love these glazing techniques using the liquid. Liquid's one of my preferred mediums I like to use. But after I painted everything in, I really kind of thought that some of my shadows in certain sections were just a little bit much. And mostly like in the cheek here, in this kind of area right where the ear and the cheekbone meet, I thought was a little bit too dark, and I also thought right here under the eye, and right here in the back of the neck was another spot that I thought I could just bring up a couple hairs lighter and make it match the photograph just a little bit better. So using very thin, very, very little paint, using a very soft brush, and I can cause those to really kind of lighten up a little more. And when you apply it, you need to make sure to kind of smooth it out, because it will have a bit of an edge to it. And so coming back and just adding a little of the paint and then kind of smoothing it out so that you have no hard edges, keep it all nice and soft. Now I'm kind of stepping back and looking at my painting and determining if I thought it was going to need any more. What I'm going to do is come in with a little bit more red because I'm looking at the painting and I want to bring up the red highlights kind of in these sections here. So even if you don't, even when you paint it the first time, if you're not completely sure about your colors, or maybe they just don't quite match the way you want them to, I'm adding a little more red here, you can go back and you can adjust them by using these glazing techniques, making sure that you're using transparent colors, very little paint, a good paint medium like liquid. There's others you can be using, and you can really come back and adjust your colors to get them to match just a little bit better. So I put a little bit more red in the cheek. He's got a little bit more right here as I'm looking at the painting, and this is really kind of where, like I've mentioned before, there's blood vessels really close to the surface, so they're going to bring in that kind of that pinkish hue, and so I can come back and I can kind of adjust the colors a little bit more. This is really where I can scrutinize my photograph, my reference material, and determine if I need to just come back here and get it a little bit more color matched. A little more red over on the cheek right there as well. And there's just a little bit more right here on the nose. So I really have just come in here, what I've done is I've come in here with my flesh tones, I've added a little bit more of my phthalo red. But I'm still using some of that liquid to make it very transparent, and I can really kind of draw out some of those sections I'm seeing that are a little bit more red. Even behind his ear just a little bit too, I'm seeing that. So I can bring in a little bit more red there too, but that kind of brings in a little bit more realism as well. Now that I've done that, I'm going to come back and I'm going to clean my brush. I want to come back now and come into kind of his uniform. There's a couple sections I think that are going to be a little bit darker and that I want to really draw out. So I'm going to take some of that cerulean blue with my liquid, go into a little bit of burnt umber. So a little blue, a little liquid, and you can see blue's really a strong color, but when I bring it in and I add some of that liquid, come in and grab a little bit of that umber, but I kind of want to keep it more on the blue side because it's going to be a cooler color. Just like that. Come back now, and I can just draw out a little more shadow kind of in this section here. Because I'm seeing it a little bit darker in that area there. and then right here into his kind of his shoulder. Gets just a hair darker right there. Once again, you want to make sure it's kind of soft when you bring it on, but it will darken that section much better for you. And then I'm going to kind of bring in a little more shadowing kind of right in here. So I just kind of apply it, then I've wiped my brush out a little bit because I want to come back and smooth that. Make sure I don't have any hard edges. There's just a couple of those bit darker sections through this area here. Just kind of move my painting a little bit there. Okay, and then right here. This is where I can go in though and I can really improve some of the shadows that are just a lot darker. So when I have a little bit lighter shadowing, not so dark, I can go back in and add a little more liquid with that color. That'll kind of lighten it up a little bit more, and then it won't be nearly as dark as I come through and just try to just adjust that color ever so slightly. And that's kind of what I'm looking for. I'm looking for little pockets of opportunity where I'm seeing it in the photograph. Maybe there's just a little bit more shadowing, but it's a very subtle shadow. There's a subtle shadow right there that I can grab. And right here is, again, kind of a subtle shadow. I kind of grabbed it the first time I painted it in, but I think I can kind of improve it a little bit more right there. And then right here is just a subtle one there. Just make it soft. Don't add too much paint. Sometimes the finger's a great tool for blending too. And I can kind of get that right there as well. So now I'm just coming back again and I'm looking at my painting. I'm looking at my photograph, just trying to scrutinize it a little bit. I really figure out, is there anything more that I need to do? Make that just a little bit darker there. So apply, wipe with the paper towel, then come back and soften those edges, and you get a nice dark sort of an edge there. And then I think equally, this is just a little bit darker than everything else. So I'm going to come back a little more of that umber and blue, and give that just a little bit more of a darkness there. Now I'm seeing a subtle color variation. Let's see. I'm going to draw this one out a little bit better. All right, so I think, get the camera readjusted back here again. So I think for the most part, that's really all I wanted to accomplish. Just a couple little tweaks, make it a little closer to the photograph, improve a little bit on some of my highlights, improve a little bit on some of my shadows, kind of color match them just a little bit better, and then I just think that that's a really great finishing touch for me. And I like to do that with my painting, specifically when I do portrait work. It's not always easy to accurately, perfectly get the colors sometimes, at least for me. Maybe for some artists it is easier, but for me I can't always exactly match everything the very first time. So going back with my glazes gives me that final opportunity to do that. So I know I've covered that in past videos. I thought I'd cover it one more time. And for those that maybe missed that past video on that, I appreciate you tuning in. Please subscribe to my channel. Appreciate your comments. Happy to respond. If you want to see something, please let me know. I love taking your ideas. And with that, I'm going to let you go. Until next time, thanks so much, everyone. Bye.